ITV Baltimore.
Hi, welcome to Straight Talk. I want to welcome all of our new stations that are watching Straight Talk, and we're trying to give you good information that can help you or your family with lots of the issues that we face in society. Today we're going to talk about one that is on everyone's mind. We see it every single day, and it's the abuse and the epidemic of heroin and opiate addiction. I don't care where you go in this country, it's a problem. Recently, we saw in Ohio where 300 or 400 people overdosed in 24 hours. It's happening all over the country. It truly is an epidemic. And what we want to do today on Straight Talk is try to educate you about not only what the problem is, but how do we solve it? How do we treat it? And we have a great addiction therapist with us, Arielle Seidler. Arielle, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
We need your help. Okay, let's just say our nation needs your help. And we want to talk about the problem. And also, you're on the front lines. You see people every day coming into your clinic. You work in a program in Towson, Maryland, Maryland Addiction Recovery Center. Do amazing work.
Thank you.
And, you know, let's talk about what are you seeing when we hear about the epidemic, but actually in a treatment center, what do you see on a daily basis?
So one of the biggest things that I would say is we see it hits everybody. So we're talking all through the ages. Our youngest clients are 18. They go all the way up to, right now we have someone in his 70s. So it hits everybody. It hits all different socioeconomic statuses, people with different types of careers. It really does not discriminate. We also do a lot of work with people's families and noticing too that there are trends, addiction runs in families, but some families also really don't know what they're dealing with. So when they come in, they're really looking for guidance. They're looking for some sense of understanding what's happening to my child, my spouse, my loved one. So we're really dealing with a whole variety of issues.
And when they come in, have they reached the point in their drug use where something horrible has happened, or?
Yes. So there's always something bringing them in the door. And that looks different for everybody. For some, it might be they got into some trouble with school when they're in college. For some, it could be legal issues, family issues, any kind of dynamic that's going on in their life that's becoming intolerable for them. So they say, I need treatment, or a family member might say, I'm pulling you out of this, you need help, we're here to support you. So they come in, they go through our admissions process, and then get placed in different levels of care depending on what it is that they need, what they're presenting with. And we have specialists there who help make those decisions as well.
Yeah, I would imagine that there's so many people out there that won't even reach that level of help, that they're out there struggling. Obviously, we see the number of overdoses increases almost on a daily basis. And you talked about how it doesn't discriminate even the age.
Right.
That you're seeing some older people. The opiate issue.
Yes.
We're talking painkillers.
It's huge.
It's really big.
Yeah.
And there, are you seeing that older population who didn't set out to be a drug abuser, but got the opiates from a doctor?
Exactly. So what we see, people get into opiates for a variety of different reasons. It can be just as you say with the doctor, someone comes in to see a doctor, they have pain, maybe they got into an accident, something's happening where they're feeling pain, so they get prescribed an opiate. And they may or may not know what that can lead to, the addictive qualities of that, how it can be abused. And all of a sudden, you know, they're taking it and they're feeling better, they don't have as much pain anymore, but they're also feeling good. Maybe some anxiety that they had before is gone, or the depression that they were feeling is lifted, and they want more and they want more, and then that's when that addictive cycle begins. The problem with opiate medications, the pills, is that they become very expensive, they become very difficult to find, so then you see people starting to turn to less expensive alternatives, and that tends to be heroin.
That's amazing. I mean, just what you said is absolutely incredible.
Right.
Here we have doctors writing a prescription for pills.
Yes.
They can't get the pills, so they turn to the streets for heroin?
Right, and it seems like such a huge leap. It's like what you're saying, you know, someone who, my back just hurts, I'm not a heroin addict. And it does feel like that level of shock for a lot of people. But it feels so good, and that draw is so strong, that addiction, and people are going to want to get that satisfied. The other piece of it too is if someone's addicted to opiates, physically addicted, if they stop taking it, they experience intense withdrawal, which is incredibly uncomfortable. It can be really painful, presents a bit like a flu, but it can be debilitating in a lot of ways as well. So people will go through a lot just to get well, just so that they're not feeling that sickness anymore.
So that withdrawal, as we've known for years with heroin,
yes.
we think the heroin addict going through withdrawal, they get more heroin.
Right.
Here you've got opiate addicts getting the same withdrawal.
Exactly.
And then flipping over to heroin.
Exactly.
Is it safe to assume that anybody that would take an opiate, and I guess Oxycontin or Vicodin, some of the one big names that we hear about,
right.
if they took it long enough, they'd always, whoever you are, you'd be addicted at some point.
Not necessarily, and that's the strange part of it,
right.
is, you know, it's not so black and white. It's not as easy to really see it, especially in the beginning stages. You know, some people might also become addicted, but not necessarily feel as much of that physical addiction. It feels more mental. But typically, what we see is the people who get more addicted. It's a chemical reaction that happens in the brain, and it doesn't happen to everybody. So it's really hard to tell if you're someone who's going to be more susceptible to it or not.
But you know that you've been taking these pain pills, and the doctor says no more.
And
all of a sudden you get that flu you talked about, and you feel bad.
Then you have a problem.
And you look and you say, well, that pill made me feel better, but now I can't get it, so I'm going to find. So you get heroin.
Right, right.
It's crazy.
It is. And then it's not just people, you know, of course, who have pain that get into heroin either. Sometimes people, you know, recreationally, if one person's prescribed it, hey, this feels really good, let me do it with my friend. And then friends will get involved, and it becomes more of like a recreational fun thing to do. We're
talking with Arielle Seidler, who's an addiction therapist. She knows what she's talking about. And we're beginning to get into the whole issue of heroin and opiates, where it comes from. We want to talk a little more about the heroin that's out there that's killing people, and then talk about treatment. So stay with us, okay? Because we got a lot to talk about. Great. When we come back to Straight Talk, we're going to keep talking about heroin and opiate addiction. Stay with us. We're coming right back.
Who helps a hero? Who tells the story of their scars? The freedom and safety of so many, of us all, is earned by the sacrifices of so few. Who helps a hero? We all do. The Gary Sinise Foundation works to support America's defenders and strengthen their families through entertainment, the construction of smart homes for our wounded heroes, and by inspiring and educating others to also support the veterans within their own communities. We enjoy the benefits of their sacrifice and service each day. Now it's time we serve them. Find out how you can help our heroes at GarySiniseFoundation.org. While we can never do enough to show our gratitude to our nation's defenders, we can always do a little more.
He calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. Our whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
all the kind comments and brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Thanks.
Hi, welcome back to Straight Talk. We're talking about the nation's heroin and opiate addiction problem. Thousands of people, more people are dying from heroin overdoses than are dying in car crashes. That's how bad this problem has gotten. And as we found out from our guest, it doesn't discriminate. It's happening everywhere. And joining us to give us her knowledge about this is Arielle Seidler, who is an addiction therapist. She works with people every day. She sees this. She knows what she's talking about, and she's trying to help us learn about it. So
Yeah.
the heroin, I mean, we keep hearing these overdose stories. The numbers are just
Outrageous.
like hundreds in
Yeah.
a day. I mean, things that you would think, that this should be like a national, epidemic and somebody should do something.
You would think so.
Wouldn't you?
Right.
It's crazy. But the heroin that's out there,
Yeah.
they seem to be adding
It's deadly.
stronger drugs. And why are they doing that?
That's a good question. We hear a lot about fentanyl being put in heroin,
Yeah.
things like that are fatal, and you never know whether you're going to get it or not. If you're out on the street, you're buying heroin, you don't know what's in it. The drug dealers don't tend to, give a nutrition table of contents type
No
deal
warning
with
labels
it, right?
on their bag of heroin.
So people don't really know what they're buying, and they're just using it, and sometimes it absolutely leads to death.
I mean, are drug dealers, is this competition? Is this trying to put out a stronger product to win over customers?
Yeah, so
God,
it's pretty nasty, actually,
Yeah.
because fentanyl, it gives such a high. Actually, an overdose is such a high that people actually sometimes strive for it because it's supposed to be the best high that you can get. So people do kind of mess with that edge of how far can I get and still stay alive. And it absolutely results in death. People don't really know what they're doing.
Now, you work with addicts and that
Yes.
addict mentality. Do the addicts tell you that there's this really great heroin on the streets and they kind of are attracted to that? Even though they know it's deadly?
Yeah, well, there's this idea, well,
amazing.
it's not going to happen to me.
Yeah.
Or if it does happen to me, my friends are going to get me to the hospital, or my parents have Narcan, or whatever. There's this, somehow I will be saved, and it's just not going to happen to me.
Meanwhile,
It happens.
like we said, there's more dying than car crashes.
Right,
It's crazy.
right.
It's absolutely insane. Now, when they come in to see you, when we talk about therapy, counseling, outpatient, inpatient, I mean,
It gets confusing.
yeah. Help us out a little bit in describing some of this for people that are looking for help.
Okay, so there are a lot of different levels of care, like you just outlined. The most intensive would be inpatient. There's detoxification, there's inpatient. Detox is for people experiencing withdrawal, like we talked about earlier. People who might need medication to assist them as they're coming off of the drugs. And that can be for opiates, it can be for benzodiazepines, it can be for alcohol, it can be for a variety of different things. Once they get medically cleared and they're medically stable, they enter inpatient treatment. And usually, there's the typical 28-day treatment. Some inpatient treatments are much longer than that, but they're basically secluded within an environment where they're getting individual therapy, group therapy, family therapy. If they're in need of psychiatrists for medication for anxiety, depression, any number of mental health concerns, they have access to that as well. And they really are provided with a lot of support without any external stressors that they might have been experiencing. The next level down is...
Let me ask you, before you
Yeah.
you brought up a good thing about the external.
Yes.
Do you find that when you have addicts, they have friends who are addicts?
Generally,
And so if they're doing lesser than the inpatient, then they're always around that temptation.
Correct.
So being in a residential setting, you're kind of safe. You're around people that are like
are
you,
also
trying to stay
sober.
clean. So that's a real benefit.
It's a huge benefit.
Yeah.
However, there's also the drawback of sometimes we see people in inpatient and then they leave inpatient and they just return to life as usual. They don't do any other step down or lower level of care. And then they go from this really secluded, really safe environment straight back into where they were before, with the friends who are still using and the, you know, whatever other stressors they may have that haven't just disappeared magically while they were away for a month.
So what would you, this is great, because I know a lot of people that say, well, I sent my kid to a 28-day program, it cost me thousands of dollars, and he came home and he started using.
Yeah.
What would you recommend? So they go to a residential.
Right.
What do you recommend they do after that?
So after that, there are lower levels of care. There are a couple different options for that. One would be an intensive outpatient program that's generally going to groups 3, 4, sometimes 5 days a week. And you're in with a group of people who are, again, are trying to get sober like you, who are offering support. You're also with your therapist there, and then you have individual therapy. Sometimes you have family therapy too, if you need to get your family involved or if they're requiring some sort of support as well. But it just continues that support, and it helps you reintegrate back into your world, into your life.
Now, where would you be living?
So that's the next piece. Some people choose to live at home. If possible, I absolutely recommend sober living. There are recovery houses, halfway houses. Some programs also do provide residences as well to just assist a little more if people need more support. Something else I see a lot with a lot of my clients is this tendency to isolate, to not really want to reach out to other people, or really struggling to connect. And those sorts of residences really help a lot because it keeps people incredibly involved. You're living with other people who are sober. If you're going to 12-step meetings, a lot of the people in the house might be going as well. And it just helps really keep you integrated.
And these are sober living houses.
Yes.
And they've become very popular.
Very.
Around, because it's that next, so that's that next step. So you go from the residential, sober living. So it makes a lot of sense.
Right.
And it's probably less expensive too than staying in a residential.
Exactly. And over the long run, it's less expensive because it increases chances of long-term sobriety.
Right.
So, you know, some people might feel, okay, I just spent this money to go to inpatient treatment. I really don't want to spend more on sober living, so I'm just going to go home or go back to whatever. But we often see that increases the chance of relapse, which then increases the likelihood that you might need to go back to inpatient for another 28 days or for however long.
Okay, so now we have them into the sober house, intensive outpatient, and then they can slowly work their way.
Correct.
But you're talking a good long, this is not a 30, 60-day process here.
Right, and a lot of people want that, or they'll say, just give me the answer, give me the guidebook so I can just stay sober and I don't have to worry about it anymore. And it's a lifelong thing, and it does take some time.
But this is a good process.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you for that part. Stay here. We're going to pick your brain some more. This is hopefully it's helpful to the audience, because I think we're trying to give good information. We're talking with Arielle Seidler, an addiction therapist. We're talking about how to help people that have heroin, opiate problems before they overdose, before they die. That's what we're trying to do here. So when we come back to Straight Talk, we're going to continue talking with Arielle and get some more answers on what we can do to help the people we care about. Stay with us. We're coming right back to Straight Talk.
Spend 15 minutes watching online videos like this one.
Brushing for 2 minutes now can save your child from severe tooth pain later. 2 minutes, twice a day. They have the time.
party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving. The ultimate party foul.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you, freely.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape.
Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Hi, welcome back to Straight Talk. We're talking about our nation's heroin and opiate epidemic. I guarantee wherever you're watching this show from, it's a problem in your area. And either your family or friends, you know somebody who needs help. And we're trying to tell you about that help, what it entails, what works, what you need to do. And no matter where you live, you've got to make those calls to try to find help. And helping us go through this is Arielle Seidler, who is an addiction therapist and is giving us great information. Arielle, we're walking through the process of helping someone.
Yes.
How effective are, we talk about 12-step, and now we're starting to see ads on TV for all these programs.
Right.
Everyone's obviously trying to make money off of this epidemic, and well, we don't do 12-step, but we do. 12-step has been around for a long time.
Yes, it has.
Okay, we know Alcoholics Anonymous, but how does it work for narcotics?
So there's a Narcotics Anonymous as well. Actually, they've created a number of 12-step programs for a variety of different addictions, but Narcotics Anonymous is absolutely taken off. It's very popular. There are a lot of meetings in every city. The great thing about the 12-step program, there are a number of things, but one is that it gives a lot of camaraderie. So when someone's feeling just alone, they don't know what to do, they need some help, they can just go into a meeting, it's free, and you instantly have this group of people there who are there to support you and help guide you through your recovery process. But not only is there the social aspect of it, which is huge, and as I said earlier, the isolation and not feeling connected is a really big problem for people who are using. There's also the part about the steps. So the steps, it's basically a guide to help you through the recovery process as well, and it's a bit more structured. Someone will get a sponsor. That's the kind of like the guide to take you through the steps, and it really helps to uncover what's underneath the addiction, what continues that addiction, what happens to make you relapse, and how do you mend relationships and people that you might have harmed or people who may have harmed you, so that you can move forward and live a healthy, fulfilling life.
So you would strongly encourage
yes.
a 12-step as part of any treatment program?
I would.
Yeah, and I think that sounds like it's a real big, I mean, it sounds like you're mapping out this like a whole process.
Right. So
it isn't one simple thing. And that's, like you said, people look for that. They want one quick fix.
Right.
But it doesn't exist.
It really doesn't, and it does take a variety of different avenues. You know, we talked about the treatment part of it, but this is also just this is what can continue with someone for the rest of their lives. It's free. You build this support network. And it just helps, like you said, it just continues that process.
And it's there for you at all times.
Correct.
Now, I guess the final piece of the puzzle has to do with your family.
Yes.
And family support or family structure.
Right. So the person struggling with addiction doesn't live on their own island. They don't live in a vacuum. Other people are affected. And like I said, then the person struggling with the addiction is affected as well by the people in their lives. And one of the biggest things that we work on at the treatment center where I am is the family, and the family needs just as much support as the person with the addiction. It's horrifying to realize your loved one is struggling so much. It's not always clear how to help them. So really helping the family navigate this whole system, understand how to help the person with the addiction as opposed to what might be hurting them inadvertently. You know, we use the term enabling a lot. Really learning how to set those boundaries, how to still operate from a place of love while doing what needs to be done to help keep your loved one alive.
Right, and that's not easy.
It's certainly not easy. And actually, speaking of 12-step programs, there are a lot of family support groups out there as well, like Al-Anon, Nar-Anon, Alateen. They play other groups that really just help to support the family structure.
And the family is such a big part of that recovery.
It's huge.
Because if the family doesn't support what the person's doing, they're going back into the fire. They're jumping right back.
Exactly. Or like I said, sometimes the family is trying to support, but they might accidentally be harming. You know, something that I see a lot is if someone's struggling with an addiction, they might have spent all their money on the drug and then they need more, and the family's just feeling bad, or they want to help, and, you know, let me just give you more money, or it's just an example, but it ends up fueling the addiction even more when the family doesn't even mean to do that.
Right.
So helping to coach the families on the do's and don'ts as far as how to help their loved one is imperative.
Now, you talked about getting, you know, we're seeing a lot of kids.
Yes.
You know, whether it's heroin, opiate, or pot, or whatever, and you said all the way up to seniors.
Right.
Do you, when you evaluate, do you decide like what's going to be most effective? There's no one fits all.
Yes, everything's individualized, and it's not just by age too. It's also with what the person might be presenting. You know, someone who's presenting with a lot of trauma in their history might not need necessarily the same as someone with a lot of depression who just can't seem to get out of bed in the morning. So different people will present with different issues, and they need to be treated like the individuals that they are.
Yeah, and you also said something earlier that I thought was really good, which was they may have a psychiatric issue, a mental health issue, and if they needed medication, that's okay.
It's okay.
And you can work with that in an addiction program.
Yes.
And you don't hear that very often out there. It's either, you know, you can't use anything, but that's nice that you realize that they have a mental illness, possibly, whatever, and they might need medication.
But as a note on that, there are some psychiatric medications that can be addictive as well.
Right.
So really making sure you're working with your doctor so that you're not using those sorts of medications is really important too.
Okay. Now, for someone that wants to find a good program, a therapist, you know, I guess, you know, there's so many people advertising.
Yeah.
And I guess what should they shop around? Should they look for certifications, or?
Well, certifications are huge. Yeah, it's really good to do your research. A lot of places will have reviews as well. But something that I think is really good to do is if you're wondering if you need help or if a loved one needs help, is actually to meet with an individual therapist. Or even going to a center just to get an evaluation. But an individual therapist can really help, and by individual I just mean a private therapist, because they also know the different places. They might have an idea of what might fit with a particular person.
Right. And they'll get you into the system.
Exactly.
Listen, I cannot thank you enough. We could talk about this all day. Sadly to say, we might need to.
Yeah,
you know,
unfortunately.
but this was a great start, and hopefully we help some people. So
thank you for having me.
Thanks for being on. Today on Straight Talk, we talked about opiates, heroin, how to get help, how to spot it, the problem, where to go. You know, this is a big problem. It's not going away very soon. Again, if you know someone or yourself has a problem with heroin or opiates or any substance, pick up the phone, get on the internet, make a call, take that first step, because it could be the best step you make for your life. So I want to thank my guest, Arielle Seidler. Thank you for watching Straight Talk, and we'll see you next time.
It's a little something I've done every night since I was a kid. Empty my pocket change into this old jar. It's never much, just what's left after I break $1. And I never thought I could get quality life insurance with my spare change.
Neither did I, until I saw a commercial for the Colonial Penn program. Imagine people our age getting life insurance at such an affordable rate.
If you're 50 to 85, you can get guaranteed acceptance life insurance through the Colonial Penn program for less than 35 cents a day, just $9.95 a month. There's no medical exam and no health questions. You know, the average cost of a funeral is over $8,300. Now, that's a big burden to leave your loved ones. Call now for free information and a free gift.
Call 1-800-961-9997 or visit colonialpenn.com. That's 1-800-961-9997. Call now.
It's one of the most star-studded world title matches in ROH history. Adam Cole defends against Jay Lethal, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Tetsuya Naito. Don't miss the action from Field of Honor this week.